very warm welcome to my cosy studio on this dark and wet afternoon. What better place to be to retreat from the weather and do some drawing? I'm going to select part of a drawing which was made with graphite pencil, so in it I concentrated on tonal value and texture. And I'm going to select part of the drawing and develop it using colour with coloured pencils. These are watercolour pencils, but I'm just probably going to use them as dry drawing pencils today. Here's the composition I've selected. I'll talk a little bit first about the different options I considered before I chose this one. I've got 2 pieces of sugar paper. Just you can use scrap paper of any sort, cut into 2 L shapes. And when you bring them together, you can create lots of different shapes of rectangle or different sizes of square to choose different compositions. There are probably hundreds of options from one drawing that could be chosen to make an interesting study. Some really exaggerated rectangles, that'd be really interesting to do. A long letterbox shape, I quite like that. Let's have a look at a long letterbox shape this way. Lots of interesting potential abstract compositions. Of course I don't have to keep the rectangle parallel with the sides as they stand. I could take a rectangle like that and then take that, straighten it up and have that as my composition. Anyway, I came to the trunk of the tree and I was looking at a rectangle like that, which I quite liked, but I wasn't sure about the balance between the amount of negative space there and the amount of negative space there, which are not the same, but they're a little bit similar. And also the fact that the tree came right out of this diagonal, so started moving around to try and make the balance of shapes less even. So here in this square I've got a small area of white, a larger area of white, well, very pale ice, but this area and this area are quite similar now in size and weight, although it's not too bad. What if I stretch it out a little bit further? That's very good, I like that one. Bottom of the tree doesn't quite come out of the corner, although there is something very strong in that corner, which I could just darken and not make too much of. It's quite an interesting composition. But let's go back to where I was. I made some marks on the corners on the frame here, so I can line it up again as it was when I selected it earlier. Oh yeah, there it is. So what I've got here, it's going to come, let me straighten it up. There we are. It's a bit like this. So the tree is taking a diagonal where it's coming out from this side about 1/3 of the way up, and it's disappearing off the top to the left of halfway. I've not got anything strong on any of the halfway points, although that's close to halfway there. So it may be that I want to move it down even more slightly. I don't know, I could change that in my drawing. That might be the answer. The balance between these areas, again, maybe those are a little bit close. In size, that's smaller, that's larger, but I think they're different enough to be okay. I'm looking for variety. I think that's what the thing is that I would encourage you to look for, is somehow compositions look better if there's not a lot of equality in balance, that there's variety, so there's a large area that's quite grey like that, and another area that's a sort of bright but intersected by a dark section. So if we start simplifying it into sort of abstract shapes, we would get variety and difference in the composition. So just taped a couple of pieces down there. As what I need to do is to get that shaped rectangle on my page over here, and then put the viewing corners back, so on my mark here and my mark there, so I can get it back into the right place. It's really hard to replace it. If you move it without making your marks, it's really hard to find exactly the spot again that you've decided you want to draw. So I need to transfer this rectangle over to this side and then begin drawing. I've also cropped the original photograph into the same shape, and I've tweaked it around so that it's twisted to the same sort of same angle as I had when I selected this, so that I can look at the colours. And I still want to make a lot of the tonal value, so I'm going to use, I've got a really dark brown here, got a black, give me my darkest darks, maybe a lighter brown as well for the warmer browns, and a couple of greens. It looks quite a bright green. I might need to look in another pot for a more sludgy green. Oh yes, here's one over here. A little bit more of a mossy green, and I'll see how I get on with those. And of course they can be mixed together by putting one colour on top of another. They should do. Just need to get a bit of sharpening done, mark out my rectangle, and then I'll start the drawing. love the patterns on the bark right here. Look, they're just like two little foxy faces. Okay. There's the ears. And there's a little pointy nose. It's funny when you start drawing again after a day or a week or whenever, however long it's been since you've done any drawing. It always feels a little bit clunky just to begin with, and then you feel this this moment where you hit your stride and you begin to go into not exactly autopilot, but your drawing brain takes over. I suppose the longer it is since you did any drawing, the longer it will take for the feeling to come back, but you're comfortable knowing where you're going. So just be patient. Allow that feeling to come back in its own time. I'm not looking at this. I'm looking at. I've got the photograph on my iPad over there, so I don't have to look at that because I'm having to draw flat with the camera looking at my work. It's really hard for me to. It would be hard to look at that, to transfer to this without getting my head in the way of the camera. So I'm actually referring to my photograph over there. That's why I keep covering this up. Sorry. Full of little foxy faces. I just realised. Yes. A whole tribe of them hiding in there. Tribe? No, you don't have a tribe of foxes. You have a pack of foxes, I suppose, don't you? A whole pack of foxes. Little foxy shapes in the bark. That's what I can see anyway. Maybe it's just me. I'm getting a bit, starting to labour on that area now, so let's get a bit more done. To the other bits. And start coming in with another colour perhaps. Ooh, it's a luscious green, that. Very vibrant. I need toning down. Although, you don't always have to go for natural colours. If something a bit brighter makes you feel the right way, go for it. It's not easy to erase this sort of pencil. Let's just see how much. Oh, it will come off. It does erase quite well. So putty rubber. Takes it off a little bit, but harder, the medium hard eraser is more effective, but it would be quite hard to make this tiny little small marks I was able to make with the putty rubber in the graphite. So I won't be relying on erasing to make this drawing so much. I do like a nice sharp pencil. It's got to make life easier, hasn't it, having a nice sharp point to work with. You can see how the colours mix just by using one on top of another. This more sludgy green is sort of filling the spaces between the marks that I made with the brighter green. Okay, so drawing from a, oops daisy, drawing from a drawing, I did refer to the colour photograph quite a lot, but it was a little bit confusing, of course, because my drawing wasn't exactly the same as the colour photograph, which it shouldn't be, because, you know, I mean, I suppose I could have traced it and that would have made it more closely like the photograph, but I chose not to trace it. So there's quite a lot of differences between the photograph and the drawing. So I had to refer to the drawing and to the colour photograph and make selections from both of them. So this study is a third version, truly, you know, a different interpretation again. And if I do my next piece of work from a drawing of a drawing, then it's going to be even more created, I suppose. Yeah, tidy up the edges, because I was kept going over the edges. I'll just tidy them up a bit there, give it a little wee frame. It's got potential, I think, to use for another technique. I might just fiddle a bit more with it. I'll go away, come back to it as I usually do. Add a few tweaks. There we go.